And we are live. A very warm welcome. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us today. My name is Michelle de Klerk. I'm the founder of the Women's Chapter. And today we are talking to Morven, who's the founder of Selaura, and Colleen Quinn, who's the founder of LabBotanical. This is part of a series of talks that we're doing on LinkedIn Live called W.Talks. And today we are talking about how to unleash your midlife power. Which hopefully is not too clickbaity, because we're going to be talking about something that really is a very important topic to all women. At some point in their lives, this will become something really, really relevant for them. So I'm very, very honored to have both of you join us here today. Both Morven and Colleen are Women's Chapter members, and we're delighted to have you as members of our community. I would like to start with giving each of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about your businesses, how you've come to be where you are, and I guess your kind of point of difference, or what sets your businesses aside. So, Morven, can I start with you, please?
Sure, of course. Can I just say on the start, neither of you look old enough to be involved in a midlife women talk. So I'm feeling a bit sort of ancient and everything. Yeah. You both look amazing. So it's really nice to meet you. And this is the first time for me meeting both of you. So lovely to see you both. Selaura is a supplement for women, specifically designed for midlife women and those entering and during perimenopause and menopause. So we have 12 clinically proven ingredients, which is quite unusual in the supplement industry to have clinically proven ingredients. And that was very important for us. And it's a one-stop shop, basically, for all the 48 symptoms of perimenopause and menopause.
Wow. I just have to say, 48 symptoms.
I know.
Yeah. And the thing is, none of us really just have one or two. We all have sort of 3, 4, 7, 9, loads of them once you actually start delving into it. So yeah, it's crazy.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Colleen, can I hand over to you, please?
Yes. So it's lovely to be here, Michelle. Thanks for having me. And Morven, it's lovely to meet you. I know your company. I stalked it about 2 months ago. And then when I realized that it was you doing this with me today, I was like, this is great. I have so many questions. So I love your products. And I love how you describe it as a one-stop shop, because it literally is a one-stop shop. It's so nice to be fit to recommend your brand to people, and they don't have to go and find 50 different supplements or, 4 different shops to buy everything they need. If women don't have time for that. We need convenience, but we need healthy convenience. And I think you do that brilliantly.
Thank you. It's really kind.
It's true. So I'm Colleen Quinn. I'm the founder of LabBotanical. And LabBotanical is a really simple brand with one very simple mission, and that was to get as the highest possible concentration of CBD at the most affordable price to us all. Because I kind of shoot myself in the foot when I talk about this, because I consult with brands that make spectacular products, CBD products, aromatherapy products, pharmaceuticals, lots of stuff. But the one thing that I always found was lacking was that CBD needs to become, especially for menopausal women or perimenopausal women, as we start to have those hormonal imbalances, CBD is super useful. And the main reason it's super useful is because it feeds our endocannabinoid system, which is a hugely important part of our body. But in order for it to become a daily supplement that we take the way we take vitamin C or we drink water, is it has to be affordable and accessible and really simple. So LabBotanical was designed with a really simple mission, and that was to get the highest concentration of CBD, which is 10%, into a product that can be taken really easily, twice a day ideally, consistently and long term. And that was the mission behind LabBotanical. So it's very niche, in that we have no intention of ever bringing out 14 skincare products, or we've no intention of ever expanding the line. We just want to get CBD into everyone's hands, but we want them to understand why it's so useful. So it's part education, part one product. And that's kind of our mission.
I love that you're so passionate about it. It's amazing.
Yeah, sorry.
It comes across straight away.
Yeah.
And I am a CBD convert. I have LabBotanical next to my bed.
Yep.
With Colleen's instructions, I do take it twice a day, and I definitely notice when I've forgotten for a few days, or if I've gone away and I've left it at home, I feel the difference. Yeah. And I think when I first started taking it, I messaged Colleen and I said, I've only been using it for a few days. I think it's probably like 10 days. And I was like, and I do feel different. Is that possible? And I think it's the same, speaking about sort of perimenopause, menopause, the symptoms. I think discussions like this are so important because what I've learned through just meeting people like both of you is that actually probably out of those 48, there are very many of them that I am experiencing. I wasn't aware of it because I wasn't educated. And the only way for us to take control and to start to really kind of fully live our lives and not act like we're on the shelf is to understand and nurture our bodies and give our bodies what it needs, right? So thank you so much for both of for joining us and sharing, and I'm really excited to get into this conversation. Morven, I would like to ask you, because you've got a really interesting backstory. You came from the corporate world and you've now developed this product. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and background?
Yeah, sure. It's a real shift change for me because, as you say, I was a lawyer. I was a lawyer for 20 years and it was my absolute life. I did the long hours, I did the stressful environments. I worked in London, I did the whole thing. And I was managing partner of a boutique firm. So I really worked my way up that level. And then we sold our business to an international law firm called Withers. And at that point, I was looking for a bit of a career change. I thought I'd maybe do some NEDs, do some angel investing, but still sort of using my real corporate background and keep it that way. And then I just stumbled upon perimenopause and I had overwhelming fatigue. It was just unreal. I'd been somebody who was super energetic, super enthusiastic, and I had so much tiredness and I lost a lot of confidence in my ability and really felt that I was losing my edge, and I had brain fog, which affected me. It affects women different ways. Some women forget names and faces or places, and I ended up being unable to finish sentences. It was the most weird thing. I'd start a sentence and then halfway through I'd think, oh God. And it wasn't even that I didn't know where I was going. I just couldn't think of the word that I needed next. It was bizarre. So I obviously thought I had early dementia. So many women now come out and say that they do, and I Googled all that and everything, and then realized I had perimenopause. And I was still doing all my sort of other jobs at that time. And then spoke to a girl who basically developed the formula, a nutritionist who I worked with. And we just decided, and it worked so well for me and for her, that we were just like, we have got to make this for other women. And at that point I was taking, like you were saying, I was taking sort of 7 or 8 supplements. And actually, I was rattling. And I was like, we've done so much research at this point. We can take this research and give it to other women out there. And it was a kind of weird stage in my life. We're talking about midlife, but it's a weird stage to decide to do that. I'm not adverse to starting a business or doing anything like that, but I had previously felt so tired and done that had given me the supplements had given me the energy to go, right, I'm going to do this and I've got to help. It was a real passion project. So this is the first time in my life that I've really been involved in a passion project and something I totally believe in. And that's what I hear from you, Colleen, as well. You can hear it when people believe in it and they know it works and they just want to get it out there so other people can enjoy it and feel the benefits too. It just means so much.
Yeah. It's completely different, I think, whenever it means something to you, that just comes across. You don't have to work on that. Like you don't need media trained to be passionate about something. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's there and it's totally authentic. You can see it in your eyes. It's like your eyes dance with just enthusiasm, and I think that's really important.
Thank you both. Yeah, and it's so true. We were having this conversation the other day in one of these other talks about personal brand and business brand, and how when you have passion for what you do, and generally there are a lot of women, I think, that have come out of the pandemic with this passion to solve a problem, to fill a need, that translates so easily into a brand story because it's authentic.
Because it's true. Yeah, you don't have to make it up. You're not building a brand. It's just, And
I think it's that kind of, it's so important for businesses and for founders to share those stories, because that's how you create that, a community around your product and your brand, because they're all people that your story resonates with.
But it's funny because my background, you had to wear a face, you had to put it on, you had to be corporate, you had to be professional. And actually it's really unnatural for me to talk about my own personal experiences and how I felt I was failing at that point and how I wasn't being my best self. So that's been a journey in itself for me to be able to open up, and there's power in that too, right? There's power in being able to open up and share your story. Obviously you feel like you're helping other people, but you also help yourself as you tell your own story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Colleen, can I go to you to tell us a little bit about your...
I'm a complete nerd. My mom always says I'm a nerd in heels. I'm like this paradoxical woman that makes no sense. So I'm a clinical aromatherapist and cosmetic chemist. So complete, fully fledged nerd. And when I say clinical aromatherapist, I studied in Provence in France, where aromatherapy and plant medicine is a medicine, where when you go to the doctor, you get offered the option of an antibiotic or a suppository for a respiratory infection. Like, you have these options, and even the pharmacies here, so many of them are split, but like plant medicine and pharmaceuticals, which is brilliant. So that was kind of my exposure to plant medicine at the start. So I've never ever lived, from I was like 16, I've never thought about life any other way other than plants being an option as a medicine. Yes, they're beautiful and we can grow them and they're wonderful, but actually they're really therapeutic. So when I started to understand the chemistry of them, I got really excited, and then really quickly realized that nobody else understood this, or no one cared. Like, no one cares about chemistry. Chemistry is hard. It's not sexy. It's difficult. So I kind of have made it my passion for the last 2 decades to make that chemistry understandable. So my job is to make really hard stuff understandable and kind of fun, because if it's fun, you want to learn about it. If it's atoms and molecules and like really difficult words no one can pronounce, no one wants to learn that. So one of my work is kind of split in 2 ways, in that I educate on plant science, and I'm starting more and more to educate on the body, because what I've learned over time is that the plant science knowledge is really important, but if we don't understand how that relates and affects our actual physical being, it's not really relevant. So I'm educating a lot more on things like endocannabinoid science and hormonal science, which is why I'm loving this conversation, and why our hormones being in balance is not a bad thing. We just need to understand what happens when they're in balance, and then where's the solutions to help with all of those different, symptoms of that imbalance. And then the other half of my life is making products for clients, like doing consultancy work, which is beautiful. And then LabBotanical came out of that, because I still seen this huge gap. And the big gap for LabBotanical with me personally was overwhelm. So when you talk about having brain fog, I would never have brain fog, but I definitely had like this overwhelming feeling. And my life was always very manic. It's much calmer now. But Michelle knew me when I was manic, when I was living the London days, and a bit like you, maybe. It was just, it was constant. There was no, it was relentless. And I was loving it. Don't get me wrong, I was loving it. But I had this tightness in my chest because the workload was getting heavier. The overwhelm was just constantly there. And then I found CBD through working with a client, and I started taking it. I always have to take the plants as R&D anyway, but CBD was one I never let go of. I kept it, and it just put life into perspective for me. It helped me to breathe better, to just get more perspective on what was going on, and helped to just alleviate that anxiety that had become normal to me. It had just become part of my life. I didn't even consider it a problem. It was just normal. And then I realized really quickly that when CBD started to unravel that anxiety, I realized that it wasn't healthy. And I made huge life choices after really taking CBD for 18 months. I realized that the life I was living was not the life I wanted to live. So the plants are pretty powerful.
And that was when you moved out of London, did you?
Yeah. And I love it, and I still miss London. I always refer to London now as a lover and not a partner. That's kind of my analogy for London. I love London, and it's amazing, and I'm very grateful for the years I had in her. But yeah, I wanted a slower life, and I feel like I'm much more productive. My work is much more meaningful when I don't live in that manic energy. So I've moved to France.
Living the dream.
It's nice.
So you're on mute, Michelle.
You're on mute, babe.
Sorry, there we go. My question for both of you would be, because you've both spoken about these shifts and these changes, but also what I'm hearing is just being far more comfortable in your own skin, being more aware of your power. Has that come with age and reaching midlife? Or are they, do you see them as being related?
Morven, do you want to take this one?
Sure, I'll go first. I think for me, I had to reach a low before I realized that I needed to change. And that low was almost the incendiary device that made the change. And I knew I had to get through it. And because I think I'd had that low, I feel more powerful now. It's really hard to put into words, but that there is a lot about feeling better in your own skin, realizing that you're at this great stage in life where actually you have the wealth of experience from your previous years, but you still have a lot of working years ahead of you and a lot of time to do a lot of amazing things. So you're in this lovely sort of sweet spot, I think, now. But for me, I needed the low, I think, to give that incentive to do something different, which is a super positive experience looking back on it now, but was probably quite a difficult journey at the time to get through.
I can probably relate to that. I definitely know that one of the lowest points in my life, and I can see it to this day, was the incentive I needed to just change the way I was living and the decisions I was making. I think for me, stepping into that power, although it was incredibly brave, like insanely brave, and I don't think we talk about that enough. I don't think, and men and women do this, where we have to make really, really difficult life choices. But if we just make the choice and stick with it and push through it, even though we're a lot of the time walking through the dark and we don't actually know where we're going or what we're doing, we will get there. And I think we should give ourselves a bit more credit for making those hard life choices. I think for me, finding that power was just realizing that we have one shot at this. Like we have one life, and I'm not going to waste it talking about what I wanted to do. I always say I want to live the length and breadth of my life. I don't want to just live the length of it. I want to live to the very corners of it as well. And that takes courage. But I feel like as I get older, it's much easier because you just, I know, you're just much more confident in your own skin. I care less what other people think now, which took a long time. I'm Irish. We care.
But that's age, right? That is definitely age. I love that length and breadth. I'm going to use that. Yeah. That is so true, because it's not just about living a long life. It's about living a long, fulfilling life.
Yeah, length and breadth. And I think that's really important. But I also think, and I'm not just saying this because Michelle's here, but I also have all these amazing women in my life that are so inspiring. So I'm 38. Although perimenopausal, I've always had hormonal imbalances. So I'm going to hit menopause much younger, which I'm quite happy about. You can remind me of this in a few years, but I'm quite happy to get there. I'm like, let's, I'm ready for this. And I think it is because there is all these beautiful women in my life that are 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years older than me that are just incredibly inspiring to me. And I think that helps.
Thank you. It's really interesting. Both of you, as part of your kind of review of your journey, have touched on stress, but also, as many people know, it's our stress levels or our cortisol levels are, it's a hormone, right? So I think a lot of us have gained this awareness now of how these two are inextricably linked and how we have to get better at managing our stress because our bodies ultimately pay the price. And both of you are obviously in the space where you're providing a solution and a tool for that to help us manage the impact on our bodies. Do you think there's a lot more freedom and openness now around this midlife conversation and the changes that women are experiencing? Morven, can I start with you?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I've got a fly buzzing around, a random fly that keeps it's sort of putting me out every so often. So the conversation around, sorry, it's really, it's like one of those bad movies. The conversation is really changing around menopause. There's no doubt about that. And I think Davina McCall, Carolyn Harris, they have been leading the charge on this. And that I've noticed a marked shift in that. And when I realized I was perimenopausal, it was probably about 18 months before Davina did the first documentary. None of my peer group were talking about it. And seriously, we were not talking about it. Everybody must have been going through it at that point. Everybody was tired. Everybody was feeling it. So there is definitely a shift change going on. And she should be, because it really, a lot of it is about her making it acceptable to start talking about it. And she still looks so youthful. So she's so full of life. She's got so much vitality. And I think more than looks, that's what comes across with her. I think is the absolute zest for life that she's been leading. So that's been a real change. I think that has led to changes in people talking about the workplace and what people can do to ease the sort of corporate workplace environment. And a lot of firms and companies I know are now putting policies in place or certainly researching to begin to put the policies in place, which is a really positive change. And I think people just being more open and more ready. When I realized I was perimenopausal, I was like, that is something that grannies get. That was the life stage I associated that with. You'd maybe have your first grandchild and then you'd have menopause. And it's not. These are women. We are women at the pinnacle of our careers. There's no way that we're stopping. We've got a lot more to give and a lot more to go. We're not down ready to look after the grandkids yet. Yeah. So there's a change, and I think that's been the most important change. That is an acceptable life change. It's just a change in hormones. That's really all it is that we need to deal with and live with and continue living life to the full while we go through this stage.
Yeah. I also think we're an aging population, and that's not going to change. And I think that's a big thing. So where in the past, I'm going to sound really old now, but in the past where women hit menopause and they were dead 10 years later, that's not happening anymore. We're, as you say, we're literally at the pinnacle.
You're winding down then,
Yeah, we're not now, you know. And I remember when my mom hit it, Mom's young, and she hit it, she was like, I'm going to start slowing down. I was like, why? Like, there's a hormonal change in your body, but you're thriving in life. And if you mentally, it depends how you, like, I think our mindset's hugely important when it comes to menopause. And I think if you see it as that hormonal change in our body, just like, you know, getting pregnant or like puberty is a hormonal change. No one tells a teenager to chill because they started their periods. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so why do we tell menopausal women that it's a slower stage in life? It's not. I know that when I get to 50, I would like to think I'm stepping into my second or third career. I have no intention of slowing down, but I am so glad the conversation's changed, because now there's companies like yours that is out there saying we've identified these problems, or these, I don't like calling them problems, these symptoms of the menopause, and so let's tackle them. Here's the solution, and let's get on with life, and let's have open conversations about it without it being the end of something. I see it as liberating. Maybe that's just me because I've no kids and my life's a bit easier, but I see it as a liberation. I don't see it as a yes, it's a challenge, but I see it as a liberation, not a negative thing.
It's really interesting you said that, because when we were doing this, we were trying to, we spoke to branding after we developed our formula and everything. We spoke to branding people. We were like, what message are you trying to get across here? We're like, we just want to get on with it. This is happening, but we want to get on with our lives. That it shouldn't stop our lives. And they were all trying to be clever with all the wording, but it's really hard to capture that essence. But it is just continue to live your life and love it as you have done previously, and not be sort of stymied by this life stage.
Yeah.
I loved your use of the word liberating, Colleen, because I certainly feel that. And my education and awareness around my symptoms has really come from being exposed to brands like both of yours, and Empowder, which is another, menopausal brand in our community, where the penny dropped for me, and I realized that I was suffering from so many of these symptoms. And then the kind of courage to start talking about it. But when you do talk about it, it is really liberating, because other people are at the same stage, or they're like, oh, actually, I think I'm there too. And you were talking about sort of the kid stage, Colleen, and I remember feeling really angry after I had my children that nobody was really very honest about the experiences that they were having.
Yes.
Breastfeeding, or how their babies slept, or all of these things that we kind
of their body
and about their bodies. I remember saying to my mother, and I was in the hospital, and I remember saying to her, why didn't you tell me that this happens? And she kind of said, well, I just didn't think. And she said, and if I did tell you, would you have believed me? I don't want the same thing to happen to me around menopause. I want to be able to have open and honest conversations with people, and I want to live my life. Like you were saying, Morven, we're at the stage where we're harnessing our power. We benefit from all of the learnings and the experiences, good and bad, that we've been through. This, I really feel like I'm at the best time in my life. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but I'm in my 40s, and I always thought I'd feel and look really old, and I don't feel that way. I still feel like I'm in my 20s. But we need to make sure that we nurture our bodies in order for them to be able to keep up. But I think it's really refreshing, this shift in conversation, and how some of the people that I've spoken to about this are people who would have never spoken about anything personal or relating to their health. Yet it's this kind of like this thread that links us all, because all women will go through this at some point. It's unavoidable.
It's inevitable, whereas not all women will have children.
Yeah, exactly.
I think education's become a huge piece in the whole menopause piece, and I completely agree with you, Morven, with women like Davina McCall leading the way. It's incredible. And I think women learn best from each other. We know this, like we go for dinner or whatever it is, like Michelle, we've had dinners together with women, and it's been the most insightful couple of hours of my life, because you learn so much. We learn so much from each other because women are so open, and when we're in our safe space, we're so open and confident to talk about all of these things. And I think that education piece is really, really important. Whereas in the past, I felt when we sat down to talk about things like menopause and hormones and being a woman, and even things like, having kids and sex and all of that stuff in our bodies, it was our experiences. Whereas I think what's different now with the menopause, there's actual information out there that's much more readily available now about what is happening. This mid-belly thing we get with the menopause, there's a hormonal explanation for that. It's not that you're lazy or you're not working enough in the gym. Like, it removes all of that guilt and that like self-beating we do. It's like, no, there's an explanation, and it's science, and it's, let's just understand it and then learn from each other. And I think the two things are really important.
So for those that are listening today, I think it would be great to kind of maybe inside that penny dropping moment for some people. What are some of the less common symptoms out of those 48 that you mentioned, Morven, that people might be experiencing but wouldn't have attributed to a hormone change?
Well, there's funny things like itchy skin that happens to a lot of women. So you get the movie symptoms, which are hot flushes, night sweats, erratic periods, but the movies tend to be sort of, you finish your periods and that's it. But often you get a lot of stress and anxiety around this stage, a lot of lacking in confidence, which I think people don't realize happens. The itchy skin's a weird one. People have joint issues as well, which is quite strange. Let me think what else there is. There's just, there's hundreds. Headaches, migraines. Colleen, I'm sure you know loads of them as well. Mood swings, irritability. Hair loss. Gosh, we've had a lovely customer recently who came back to us, and she's such a lovely lady, and I don't want to share her photos because and it's such a private, but she had clumps and clumps of hair coming out. So not just thinning, actually bald patches, and it's quite takes away a bit of your sense of self, I think, when you lose your hair. And even just the thinning is I found quite weird to deal with, but the clumps of hair coming out, I think, is quite an unusual one too. Yeah, Colleen, I'm sure you know loads of them as well.
The hair loss thing just leads. I just see a pattern when I work with women that have the hair loss, which I find it's common enough. Just the anxiety,
but maybe not talked about as much.
Maybe not talked about as much, or they don't identify it with menopause. That's the other thing, which I always find quite interesting, because we identified hair loss and poor hair quality with pregnancy and having kids because the baby takes everything. It's all hormone related. So I always find it interesting when people are like, they don't connect it to menopause. But that sense of identity is huge. So it's probably one of the things, it's not necessarily a symptom of the menopause, but it's one of those personal roller coasters women go through when they start to go through perimenopause and menopause. It's when their body starts to change. For some women, their body is what their body is, and it's been consistent for 10 or 15 years, maybe, post babies, and they have their Pilates routine or whatever it is they do, and then all of a sudden it changes. They haven't changed. They haven't started eating more sugar. They haven't stopped going to the gym, and their body's changing. And that lack of control they have is really stressful. But it also then, and the stress doesn't help. Big stress can put weight on, and stress can stop you from sleeping, which doesn't help with weight. And it's like this vicious, it's not even a cycle, it's like a vicious hamster wheel that you just are running on. And the faster you run, the worse it gets. And I think a lot of it is, if we start to understand that, the depleted estrogen levels in your body plays absolute havoc with every part of your body. But also your mind. And I don't think we talk about the mind connection to our hormones a lot either. We know the physical symptoms a lot, but that anxiety and stress and lack of confidence is huge. Some women, have the tools and the support network to come through that and get that confidence back in a different way. But for other women, it never comes back. And, they feel like a lesser version of their previous self post-menopause. And I think that's really, really sad, and something I really want to start to help women get the tools to just not get in that position where they can get through the menopause with whatever solution they need, whether that be starting meditation or starting a different exercise routine or supplements. But I want them to come through it with a liberated confidence, not feeling like they've lost a piece of themselves.
Yeah. This is such amazing insight, I think, around kind of building that awareness and opening up this conversation even more. But for those that are still struggling with the stigmas that are associated with this life change, we've all heard the change, or this idea that it's the end, and I've so often heard women speaking about, oh, well, once you hit midlife or you hit menopause, then everything's over, your sex life is over, your body, you lose your femininity, you get unusual hair growth, all these things that I think a lot of us are terrified of. What advice would you give to women who are struggling or worried about that stigma? And how can they be better equipped to deal with this change that they will start to experience? Can I start with you, Morven?
I was going to offer Colleen to this. I think the female support network is there much more now, and I would definitely recommend to women to start talking to their friendship groups first of all, because I think there's a sense of solidarity now amongst the friendship groups that we are all going through this. You're not abnormal to be feeling these ways. And then I think for me, perimenopause it's got to be a holistic approach. There's no magic bullet that will sort something. That's not HRT, it's not supplements, it's not a single thing. It is a holistic approach. And what the supplements gave me was the energy enough to start the other processes. So to start exercising correctly. And it's about weight-bearing exercise and walking rather than sprinting and running as fast as you can in the gym, so your exercise regime changes to support your body and your joints as you're aging in a really positive manner. It's not about less exercise or exercising less rigorously. It's just about doing it in a different manner. And then the other thing I found really beneficial, and it's so simple, but it's just such a key element, is getting outside first thing in the morning, getting the sunshine, setting your circadian rhythm properly so that you actually your body's ready to go to sleep at night, because sleep's a really big issue in perimenopause and menopause. And it's partly it's due to the hormones, obviously, but due to the temperature regulation that you don't quite have as much as well, and just the sense of anxiety too. So being able to try and get the sleep, then other things start to fall in place too. So friendship groups, I think, are super important. Nutrition, exercise, and daylight. Those are the 4 key things I would recommend to people.
Yeah, I completely agree with the daylight thing. I think it's one of the most important things, that getting morning sunlight into your face is just like into your eyes. It's just so
and removing your
helpful.
sunnies. That was another thing I hadn't really thought about. Take the sunnies off, and
And it's that morning light. I rise with the sun, or try to rise with the sun, although the French aren't very accommodating to that because they don't eat just so late at night. But I'm going to change their culture. So that's a huge thing. But I think for the stigma, for me, I agree with everything, and that friendship group is so important. But I also think there's some amazing women out there now that are just like, they're breaking through all the things that we feel uncomfortable to talk about. There's very few things I'm uncomfortable to talk about, as Michelle well knows. But there's amazing women out there that are just cutting through all the politeness of the things with menopause we don't want to talk about, like lack of libido. Like, it's a huge thing that it's, and I have amazing friendships groups, and then some of them I could definitely have that conversation, and others not so much. So it's having those people that you can just bare your soul to, and I think that's really, really important. And women are lucky that we have those women. Like, I could bare my soul to Michelle and she'd be fine with it.
It sounds like you maybe already have at some point.
She'd probably need a gin, but she'd be fine with it. But I think, like, there's women out there, like, there's an amazing podcast by a woman called, I can't remember her second name, but the podcast is called Sex with Emily. And a big part of what she talks about is menopause libido, or just general, like, she calls it the work stress libido in your 30s, when you're too busy to even think about it. But then it's even harder to get it back, or to get into that space when you are perimenopausal or menopausal. And she talks about the importance of, like, solo sex or solo love, and how that is a brilliant way to give yourself self-power and self-love when you're going through these changes in your body and this lack of self-confidence. There's no better way to rectify that or help to support that by actually loving yourself and not relying on someone else to do it. So those kind of conversations I think are brilliant. And there's amazing, mostly psychologists and therapists out there that are doing a really good job about talking about the things that just maybe are the last conversation in the friendship group that sometimes we don't always get to.
Yeah. Morven, can I go to you to tell us a little bit more, because obviously you've developed this product to help women live full lives despite the hormone changes that they've been having. And I love the idea, because I have one of those cupboards that are filled with all sorts of supplements, probably many of which are out of date now, but I can't bring myself to throw them away because they were expensive or whatever reason. So the idea that you do have this one point for everything that you need. Can you tell us a little bit about what goes into your product and how that helps women?
Sure. So it was the result of over a year of research and working with some of the best nutraceutical companies in the world. We really decided to go for best in market for every single ingredient we included. So everything we researched had to be in its most bioavailable form, so it's most easily absorbed by the body. And I'm a big one because of my background. I like research. I like reading research papers. I like understanding that things have actually been proven. So everything had to be proven that we've included in within our formula. So just to get, we've got 12 ingredients, and what we talk about is like a layering approach. So they work with each other and support each other. So it's not, if we look at libido, it's not that we've chosen one ingredient and say, that's going to sort your libido out. Actually, if you look at, we've got 2 ingredients that we would specifically say work on your libido, but then they work together with a lot of our other ingredients that are reducing stress and making you perhaps a bit more able to sleep, which is going to help that way as well. So it's really, we wanted the supplement to be a holistic approach to it. So if I look at maybe ashwagandha, which is quite a well-known ingredient at the moment. A lot of people are talking about it as a buzz thing. We've chosen KSM 66 ashwagandha, which has had 22 gold standard clinical trials on it, and it really helps balance the body and mind. So it's an adaptogen, so it points in your life, or points in your day even, where you need more energy, it'll give you more energy. And then when you want to sleep, it'll sort of calm you down and enable you to sleep. And then we looked also at hydrocurc, which is an anti-inflammatory, the most bioavailable form of curcumin as well, because we knew we needed to look at that for joints and anti-inflammatory and anti-aging. And then Libifem, which is one of the ones for libido, which is so important, as we say, and often not easily talked about so much. And it's a clinically trialed fenugreek. So everything has been clinically trialed, and what we wanted is we reckoned it was going to be women like us that were going to be using this. So they were going to want to know the research that had been done on these ingredients. So we've been very open on our website, and we sort of link you into the trials and give you the evidence. If you want to go as far as that, if you're somebody like me that wants to actually understand where everything's coming from, then it's all there. If you just want to know it works, you can look at the testimonials, and that's there too. So, but being scientifically proven and having this layering effect was our key motivation for the formula.
Amazing.
Colleen, can you tell us about the impact of CBD on these hormone changes and how that can help us live more full lives and manage these nasty symptoms that creep in?
So I'm going to get nerdy here, but you were expecting that. So we have a thing in our body called the endocannabinoid system. And I know I've talked about it before to the women's chapter, women, but you can never hear it often enough. So the endocannabinoid system, we've all had it, but it was only discovered 30 years ago, which is insane that the science is only like 30 years old. It's crazy. So it was only discovered 30 years ago. And at that, we don't know a massive amount about it. We know that there's 2 receptors in there that are basically receptors in the endocannabinoid system, basically mean that they receive the information, and the information happens to be cannabinoids, which is things like CBD and THC. They receive them, and then they use them to do different things in the body. So the easiest way to think of the endocannabinoid system is as a secondary immune system. So if you think of our immune system, building white blood cells, building red blood cells, plasma, like keeping us healthy, strong, fit, like fighting, for our defenses, the endocannabinoid system sits like a sister to it in that it regulates. As opposed to fight and flights, the endocannabinoid system regulates. So what it does is it does a couple of very interesting things, but the three big things it does is that it is one of our greatest anti-inflammatory protectors in our body. So it's, if you have inflammation in your body and you do not have a well-optimized endocannabinoid system, your body isn't capable of fighting inflammation. It doesn't matter what you put into it, what anti-inflammatories you put in. Your endocannabinoid system needs to be optimized in order to function, in order to work really well with those inflammatory problems. And lots of the symptoms of menopause are related to inflammatory conditions like the joint pain and the aches, and even the stress, all of that pressure that it puts on the spinal nerve and the brain cells in different parts of the brain is all inflammatory. So the second really good thing it does is it's a really strong antioxidant. So if aging or trying to age gracefully is really important, and I mean from like a skin point of view and an internal organ point of view, because I think when we think about aging, we think about our skin and externally, but actually we need our internal organs to age really well and healthy. Like if our digestive system isn't aging well, we're going to end up with celiac disease or Crohn's or diverticulitis or problems like that, which are all inflammatory conditions. So there's a really strong tie here between, aging with a really strong antioxidant mission and then being anti-inflammatory as well. And then the third thing that our endocannabinoid system does really well and really related to menopause is that it works on our cognition. So it keeps our cognition incredibly strong. And it does that by doing a couple of things. It stimulates our cognition and regulates our mood, which is so important. So as our hormones are literally waging war on our brain, the endocannabinoid systems come behind it, and it's putting water on the fire and just saying, you're not allowed to light a fire here. We're looking after this brain, and it's not going to get brain fog, and it's going to remain sharp and stay sharp. So I think that's one of the brilliant things it does. Within the cognition piece, the other thing it does is it stops our body knowing we're in pain. So we have messengers that go to our brain constantly to say, oh, this little niggle is there, don't you forget about it. So then we, as just mere mortals, think about the pain, and then that builds anxiety and builds stress. And the pain can be like an aching knee, or it's not an injury. It can just be like our creaky joints. The endocannabinoid system stops that message. It literally cuts the messenger off from getting to the brain. So our brain is not focused on those small little negative things that's going on in our body. It's focused on regulating and creating a sense of balance and equilibrium. So feeding that system is really important. And we feed it with, yes, cannabinoids, but we also feed it with really dark green vegetables and lots of hydration.
And how long does it take for it to have an effect? So if you
Great
just
question.
start using CBD, like when do you start to feel the change?
So everyone's different. We call it the endocannabinoid tone. So for example, if you've never ever taken cannabis in your life, so you've never smoked a joint as a kid, you probably have what we would refer to as a dead endocannabinoid tone. Your body does feed the endocannabinoid system naturally, so it's not like it lies dormant in your body doing nothing. There's two molecules in our body that does feed it normally. So if you never take CBD or any cannabinoid or touch cannabis, it is going to work for you, but on a low level. If you are someone that used to smoke weed in the past, or you've taken cannabis or CBD in the past, then you will get a much stronger effect very quickly. So I always say to people, give it 2 to 4 weeks to see a difference. But some people like you, Michelle, that's seen a difference earlier, chances are your body needed it earlier. So your endocannabinoid system was screaming for cannabinoids.
Not an extension of what I got up to at university.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, or you smoked a colossal amount of weed as a uni student. Either or, I'm not going to speculate. But I have seen even with my mom is a great example. I put mom on CBD years ago, and she could see a difference within a week, and she's never taken cannabis in her life. But her body needed it so badly that it was just so grateful so quickly that she got seeing the benefits so quickly. The one thing I will say is that it's like any really good supplement. After a period of time, like 6 months or 8 months, you'll think, oh, is it working? Because I don't see a difference. It's not until you stop taking it again. And Michelle, you said this to me before. It's not till you stop taking it, you're like, oh, yeah, that was working. I just needed to leave it alone and do its thing because it's working really well. So that's it. And then the reason we say you should take CBD twice, ideally 3 times a day, but that's not practical, I don't think. Twice a day is because our endocannabinoid system processes our CBD every 8 hours. So every 8 hours, it's processed the CBD we put in, which is why you're definitely better to take it twice a day. And if you have sleep problems, don't take it too close to bed. Some people will find it's a sleep aid and others find it's motivational. So you need to figure out which it is for you. For me, if I took it before sleep, I wouldn't sleep. It kind of keeps me focused and sharp. So I take my second dose about 6 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And Morven, your supplements, Laura, how long does that take for people to feel a change?
But it's quite a similar sort of story, isn't it? That some people, it just depends on your body and what your body needs. Some people have come back to us within sort of 3 or 4 days and said, I feel amazing. I feel really different. And even if it is the sort of placebo effect, that's fine. That's great. We've got some vitamins in there that are going to give you a bit of an energy boost straight away if you're not used to taking them. But really, and I mentioned before, it's the layering effect. And it takes probably, we recommend taking it for 3 months before you notice the full benefit, but you'll get better as that time goes on. It's going to be fully optimized at the 3 months. And again, it's the customers that come off it and then go, oh no, it was working. I need to go back on it, because it's really hard. It's not like putting on a red lipstick and you immediately have that vibrancy and you feel great. Supplements do build up over time. That's their very nature. And I was talking about the lady with the hair, and the only reason she realized how much it had worked is because her hairdresser had taken photos. So she'd actually been in touch with us before that, said, oh, it's really great. I think my hair's a little bit better. And then literally a week later, she came back and went, oh my God, I needed to tell you this because it, it happens over sort of 3 to 4 months. So your hair gets a bit thicker. And then she showed us the before and after. And I think that's like it with so many symptoms with supplements. You forget how bad you felt before and how good you feel now in comparison.
Yeah, we get complacent sometimes.
Yeah. But it's nice to feel good, isn't it? You don't want to feel bad. So you just feel good again. And you think, oh yeah, I'm fine now. Maybe I don't need that. But actually, the reason you're feeling good is because you're on this nice level.
Yep, absolutely.
So we are at time, actually, but I wanted to ask you if there is anything that I haven't asked that you wanted to share with us, or maybe there's something new that's coming for Selaura or LabBotanical that you wanted to tell everyone about before we end off today. Morven, is there anything for Selaura on the horizon that we should be looking out for?
Well, my biggest thing is I want to come on a night out with you girls soon, because it sounded amazing. We had a bit of a chat beforehand. I was like, oh, right, I want to get involved in this. So that's my biggest takeaway from this today.
You're going to have to come to Toulouse, but you're more than welcome.
I'm there. I'm done. I'm there. That'd be amazing. It's just been lovely meeting both of you. It's been really fun. And I can't believe the time's gone so quickly. So that's great.
No, thank you. And you guys have had such great chemistry. It's been wonderful to listen to you talking and sharing, and the benefit from those that have listened today and who will watch the recording back will be exponential. So thank you so much for the awareness that you've raised, but also just sharing so much of yourselves and your journey with us. It's really greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're lovely. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And we will be coming to visit you. Maybe we need to do a trip to Scotland and a trip to Toulouse.
Yeah,
I love
we could have the women's chapter on tour.
I'll come to Scotland. I went to uni in Glasgow for a while. I love Scotland.
Oh, nice. That'll be perfect. Brilliant.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, I will pop into the comments underneath this video on LinkedIn. I will pop in your links to your websites, and of course people can direct message you or get in touch with you there as well if they've got any further questions that they would like to ask. This recording will also be uploaded to the events section on the Women's Chapter website, where we host all of our past events. So the video will be there to watch as well, but otherwise it will be hosted on LinkedIn too. So thank you so much for everyone that has joined us today, but especially thanks to both of you. Thank you.
It's been lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a wonderful afternoon.
Bye.
You too.